Hello everybody, welcome into my latest live video. Today it is Thursday, the 1st of June, 2023. My name is CareyHolzman. Thank you guys for joining me today as we have a repair video on the bench. Well, I have a computer on the bench for which we are now making a live computer repair video, which means we're gonna fire this thing on, diagnose it, and repair it live on camera, or we're gonna make an attempt. Hopefully, it'll be easy peasy. I have not powered this machine on. I have no idea what's going to happen. The customer built this computer themselves, and it's been working fine for a number of years. They tell me it stopped booting, and they only have I'm told, and again, I haven't confirmed anything. They said they have a mechanical drive and a solid state drive. They want me to put in an M.2 drive. They've got a 970 Evo 1 terabyte drive here. And they said one of the fans isn't working anymore. So we'll take a look at that. Now, if we spin this around and take a look, I mean, I don't know what processor this has or anything. I put some Post-it notes over a non-family friendly sticker they've got on the case. They were very apologetic about that not being camera friendly, but I said it's not a problem. And if the stickers fall off, you know, we're all adults. Thank you guys for the contributions. Let's see, we've got quite a few coming in here. Alan Lindos with, well, what is normally $7.77 contributes $77.77. Wow, that's about 10 times more than normal. He says, Carey and chat, I may miss Friday's video and next week's. Vacationing to Minnesota. So here's my combined support amounts. I gotta find a cooler place. You and me both, brother. When you find a cooler place, you let me know how that works out for you. I've never been to Minnesota or Wisconsin, which is weird because I'm from Michigan and they're just right there. But hopefully you'll check in with us. If not, or regardless, have a safe trip. And thank you so much for your generosity. That's very much appreciated. Mark Gaines, our friend in Northern Ireland, contributes 10 pounds. Thank you, Mark. Cheers, my friend. And Ben Laird, a friend in Scotland, says, hello all from Scotland. Thank you, Ben. Planet Cryos contributes $2 and says, let's get this party started. Well, now that you're here, we can. Chris, the PC doctor, with a $5 super chat, says, I just acquired a bunch of computers I will be fixing up and selling. Right on. And our good friend Buster, known as Peter Laycock in the chat, contributes 10 pounds. Says, good evening, Carey and Marlena and everyone in the chat. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland, where the temperature in Edinburgh today is 51 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 11 degrees Celsius. It's been in the 50s all week this week, Peter. Boy, I better make a note to myself that this is the time of year, it sounds like, to go to Scotland. Actually, it might be a little bit chilly. Keep an eye on these temps so I get an idea. Got the passports filled out. So another 10 to 13 weeks, I should have a passport in my hands. Thank you, Buster. Colin Hunt with a 5-pound contribution. Colin joining us from somewhere in the UK that I can't remember. Thank you, Colin. Colin says, good evening, everybody. Planet Cryos contributes $5 and says, at first I thought the reflection on the panel was a weird RGB, but nope, it's the reflection of the window shades. Yeah, exactly. Rice Star Man with a $10 super chat says, New Mexico is wet today in the low 60s and rain. I wonder if Arizona's going to be getting that. Nick Caffrey contributes €10. I'm not sure where Nick is watching us from with the euro. Thank you, Nick. Thank you for supporting the channel. Planet Cryos with another contribution, $2 this time, said it's 96 degrees Fahrenheit in Saratoga, New York. Holy cow. It's not that hot here. Today, I think in Phoenix, we're in the 80s, is it? What's my phone say? 85? Well, let's see. Let me update it just to make sure. We shouldn't be this cool this time of year, and I'm not complaining. Yeah, it's 85 out there today. So you're 11 degrees hotter than us, although you're also 3 hours ahead of us. So in 3 hours' time, we might be at 96. Bob R. contributes $10. Hello, he says. Hi, Bob. Thank you for your contribution. Find me in Hawaii. That's Ken. Thank you, Ken, with a $10 or $9.99 contribution. We'll just call it 10 bucks. Thanks, Ken. And Chris, the PC doctor, contributes $2 and says that it's way too hot in Minnesota right now in the high 90s. Ooh, that does sound hotter than it is here. But again, a couple hours ahead there, so they're a little later in the afternoon. And Planet Cryos with another $2 super chat he says, here's another super chat just because you're cooler than me. Obviously, he means that literally, not figuratively. All right, so this is the box. And again, I have no idea how well it is built. I have faith that he did a good job, but you know, we'll fix anything that needs to be addressed. And we'll make sure we get it right so that when he gets it, all of his problems will be behind him for a while. That's going to be our goal. Looks like he's got a video card in here and GeForce RTX 3070. That's a really nice card. That may be the nicest part of this whole system. Looks like a pretty generic case he's got going on here. Real glass, it's not plastic. I'll give him credit for that. Looks like we're going to have some fans up front, RGB fans. I guess one of these, I think he said the bottom one isn't working. What do you think? Should I get to work? I guess we're going to start with taking the panel off here. Now, I haven't done anything to this, obviously. I haven't cleaned it. I haven't blown the dust or dirt out of it. I haven't wiped the fingerprints down because that's something I usually save to the very end. So when the customers get their machines back, I always clean them. I remember I used to take laptops to a Toshiba authorized service facility here in Phoenix. And before they would give your laptop back, they would wipe it down with some Windex and clean it up right in front of you. And it was just, I've never seen a repair shop do that. And they did it with every single machine. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start doing that. I think that's a pretty awesome thing to do. Because normally I just blow the dust and dirt out of them. SueCool98 Lawrence contributes $20 in Super Chat and says, thank you for all the help you give. Well, thank you, SueCool. Appreciate you. Okay, glass panel is off. And what do we have going on in here? Oh, not a bad looking system. Yeah, I see the 3.5-inch mechanical, the 2.5-inch SSD. I don't know which one he's booting from. Sounds like one of his drives has failed. We've got a Wi-Fi card in here. We'll tie that cable up and make it look pretty. He's got an Aries Game 750 watt. You know, I've tried these Aries Game power supplies. Despite they're very budget oriented, they seem to be pretty reliable. They might be a little generous on their 80 plus rating, but I don't care about that. We've got some dust buildup here on the cooler, and the rear case fan does not appear to be RGB. So it looks like, yeah, see that fan is dark, and the fans up front, including the CPU fan, the fins are see-through, right? They're clear. Usually that's an indication of an RGB fan to have the clear fins. We have a mismatched color screw here. That one is silver. It should be black. I'm going to fix this all. I'm going to get it all right, get my OCD happy. Let me get the little close-up camera out, and I will film the inside of it close up so we get a nice before and after shot of it here. So let me turn this on. And let's see, how am I going to do this? I guess I need to step over here. Oh. And we'll go over to, go like that, I suppose. We'll go to camera, where is it? Close-up camera. Should be this one. Does that work? Hey, it works. And if I don't step all over my cables here, I'm starting to feel camera girl's pain with regards to the cables getting tangled up. Okay, so let's see, what do we have? There's our cooler and our RAM. Why he's got white RAM in a black case, I don't know. Some people don't pay attention to that stuff. You know, honestly, they just buy the RAM. They don't think about it. They plug it in. And the window is so tinted, I guess you probably can only see the RGB anyway. Coming down, we've got the GeForce RTX 3070. Looks like, yeah, it's an EVGA. They don't make video cards anymore. See an M.2 slot down there, the Wi-Fi card, power supply. Across this way, there's the internal 3.5-inch mechanical drive, which I'm not sure what that is. And then we've got, looks like an SK Hynix 2.5-inch solid state drive. Now, this is a gaming machine, so it doesn't have any important data on it. And if we need to wipe it because, well, let's face it, it sounds like he's got a bad hard drive. And if that's the case, there's no fixing that. We just do a clean install. He doesn't care about Windows 10 or 11. He doesn't even remember if it has Windows 10 or 11 on it. It's been down for a few months, and obviously he's not missing it. And he's been meaning to have me look at it, and he's been busy, and I've been busy. And, well, long story short, it's here now. He brought it over yesterday, and we're going to make this right for him. Yeah. Okay. On the back here, yeah, I'm going to get rid of that silver screw. That needs to be a black screw. Got black screws on the power supply. There's our Wi-Fi. Back at the video card. Oh, we're missing a slot. We're going to have to find that. Missing 2 slot covers. So we'll find some replacements to put in there. This is one of those cheap cases where these punch out. And then he probably got the screws with the case, and who knows where they went. Back of the motherboard has some nice I/O back here. Got a little bit of damage up here for some reason. He's not using a liquid cooler here, so overall, I think this is going to be simple. Famous last words. Am I going to regret that later? I don't know, maybe. Let's go back to the main camera here. We'll shut this bad boy off. In just a minute. There it goes. That's all powered down now. Oh, I definitely got to get a longer cord for the close-up camera. I bought one. I just haven't had time to take it out of the package and hook it up, or when I've had time, I completely forgot. And then I go to use it and I realize what I've forgotten. So, mental note for later. Oh, I didn't get the buttons up here, but up at the top, we've got power, a couple of USBs, 1 USB 3 for some reason, and 2 USB 2s. It looks like a reset switch, probably an RGB button to control RGB. And then there's a mic jack, and it says auxiliary. Don't know what that's for. I would assume headphones. And then we've got a power light and a hard drive activity light up at the top. So I don't know who makes this case. Can't say I'm a big fan. But I mean, it holds the parts, it gets the job done. DJ Big Red, this is his computer, by the way. He says it was a used case. Okay, well, there you go. So he probably doesn't even know what it is. It's all good. No criticisms, DJ Big Red. I'm just pointing things out as I inspect them, and just kind of, no judgment, just pointing out the details. That's all. I think this antenna is going to get in our way. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the antenna off of here, because this cable keeps bumping up against me as I spin the computer around. Let's just go ahead and... Did you tape that? Or is it just a strong magnet? It's a very strong magnet. Okay, good. Let's just set that down here for now. And Carey is critical and will critic. It's that I have a certain standard of building. And when I'm pointing things out, I'm not pointing things out to embarrass anybody. I'm pointing things out for you guys to be aware of what I'm seeing. If I just point the camera at it and I don't speak, but I keep all these mental notes about what I'm going to do, you might be lost as to why am I doing these things. So for me, a lot of this is about the consistency of the building process. So regardless if it's a machine I built or a machine that comes in for repair, regardless, they all go out the same way, which is done right, even if it means that I have to take the whole darn thing apart and start over. And I'm not saying I have to do that with this one. There's a couple of little things that are bothering my OCD, but overall, everything looks good. So we're gonna, first of all, I'm gonna take this rear panel off of here, and we'll take a look in the back. And then we'll hook it up and verify the customer's complaint. symptom, whatever we want to call that. Planet Cryo says it's going to be a RAM stick, just a wild guess. My guess is it's a bad drive. I don't know if it's the mechanical drive or the solid state drive, but statistically, likely the mechanical. All mechanical drives are going to be one of your first pieces of hardware in any system to fail. Statistically speaking, he's probably just fine on the power supply. I'm going to pretend that I'm not seeing this. This is not pretty. I am going to remove this wire tie. He's got a wire tie back here holding the cables together. We don't want to use wire ties inside of our builds because, especially here in the desert where the air is very dry, these get brittle and they break, and it's basically a piece of wire that then floats around in your system. And well, that's not a big deal if you never move your system. All you have to do is move it to another part of the room or move it for vacuuming or put it in the car to take it to a friend's house. And if this piece of metal gets lodged behind your motherboard, it short circuits something, you're going to have a very expensive repair. It's not going to be a warranty issue. This plastic or nylon zip ties are pennies a piece. Let's use our nylon zip ties. So I will clean up this cable management, and I do see more wire ties that have to come out. The wire ties are fine when you're building if you want to hold some cables out of your way, but by the time you're done and you want to, start buttoning things up, that's the time to fix up your cable management, because when your cable management looks like this is very difficult to work on. So if you're the one working on it, you're just doing this to yourself. And if somebody else is working on it, well, you're just made their job harder. So, even things like this where we've got cables crossed over, I would not have crossed these cables over. Just little details like that. This cable right here, in my opinion, should have been routed around that other cable instead of weaved in between it. We're not tying a shoe here. So again, it makes for a cleaner look, and it makes it so much easier to work on. If you have to change a fan, you don't want to have to go through and untangle a bunch of cables and stuff like that. So when I'm doing the cable management, I'll segregate the cables out so the front port cables can be cabled together, fan cables can be cabled together, and that way you'll undo a specific smaller bundle rather than one big bundle, and it just gets you in and out faster. That's all. See, like this cable's all twisted up. I mean, I'm not even sure why he plugged that into itself. That's not a good idea. Very strange. And another wire tie. So we're going to have some cable management cleanup here when we're done, but nothing we really need to worry about now. In fact, this is the fun time where you can just start pulling cables and getting things straightened out and unwoven between each other. We will figure this out here. And if we're not using this particular cable, we could have just simply unplugged it. I think, unless that's soldered in. Usually this cable will unplug and you can just take this out, put it in the motherboard box. And that's if you wanted to control your RGB through some type of controller, whether that's on the motherboard or a separate controller. It looks like he's not using it. So, it's just adding a lot of cable to manage on top of the cables he actually needs. So little things like that. I see another wire tie. We got a lot of no-nos in here. Every time you add one of these wire ties, you're increasing your opportunity to have one of them break. Once they break, oh boy, it's not fun. Usually the complaint is, my computer started smoking and then it went off and it hasn't turned back on since. I don't want a customer ever calling me with that problem. So for that reason, I'm going to be removing any wire ties, any and all. There should not be a wire tie in here. Let's go ahead and hook it up and let's verify the symptom. Okay. Switch power supply to off. I need a video input here. Let's see here. I believe this is video output, isn't it? So that'll go into our capture card right there. And I need a keyboard and mouse. I got my wireless keyboard and mouse here, and I didn't have any time last night to try and figure out why my G key was sticking, but maybe it'll work fine today. We'll see. Bebo contributes $5 in Super Chat. Right on, Bebo. Thank you for that. Here we go. Let's plug that in right there. And let's go over to my window. No, not window capture. HDMI input is the one I want. Take camera 1 and I'll put it up in the corner as I usually do. Put me right up there, like so. And turn this on. Hit the power button. And I can see that the bottom fan is lighting up but not spinning. And all the other fans look okay. Looks like we're going to get a power on self-test here. Well, it looks like we're booting. Interesting. It was described to me that it was not booting, that it was just a black screen, but maybe it just never gets to the desktop. I don't know. Also not certain which machine it's which drive it's booting from either. Or maybe it just sits here and does this the whole time. I'm accustomed to being spoiled and not having to wait this long for an operating system to load. It usually is around 13, 15 seconds. And his will do that once we're done with it today. DJ Big Red said, I swear it wasn't booting. DJ Big Red said it'll sit there for hours. Okay, well, again, it's nice to have the customer in the chat room so that we can get this kind of live feedback instead of speculation. So maybe that's just what it does, is it just sits here spinning. I do see that the hard drive activity light is blinking on and off. So, and Beardem says you can go into safe mode and do system restore. This is true. However, I think what I would like to do, since we're going to put the 970 Evo in it, is not do a nice clean install. And so what I will do, let's turn this back off because it should have booted by now. So we've confirmed it's not booting, and we've confirmed he's got a fan that's not spinning down there. I think what I want to do is unplug the SATA cable from the back of the hard drive. So we're going to disconnect the mechanical drive. And I'm also going to disconnect the 2.5-inch SK Hynix SATA drive here, which is a little bit tricky to get to. Came off a little too easily. All right, I am going to move these SATA cables around a little bit here and untangle them. And let's see. That's fine. This cable's going to really annoy me, so I'm going to put a wire tie on it just to wrap it up and keep it out of my way. And then later when we're done, we're going to either remove that cable entirely or nylon zip tie it. All right, let's see. That's all good there. Everything else is fine. It looks like it's put together well. I see all 9 standoffs. Are there 9 screws holding it together? Got my flashlight and take a look-see. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's using the wrong screw over here. 1, 2, 3. Wrong screw. Can't see behind the Wi-Fi card. All right. That's fine. That's fine. Not a big deal. Again, just OCD stuff, you know. I like all the same screw to be used. DJ Big Red contributes $4.99 super chat. He says, I do better cable management on cars. I believe that to be true. I've seen his car. It's very nice. All right, what I need to do is remove there's a heat shield that sits between the CPU cooler and the top of the graphics card. Well, technically it's the bottom of the graphics card. And I can either remove that graphics card or I can try and squeeze my hands in between. And I think we'd probably be better off to remove the graphics card only because there's less chance of things going wrong, make my life a little easier because I'd have to get in right in here. So what I'll do is we're going to cut power. Oh, I already did. Take out, oh, he's only got 1 screw holding this big graphics card in. That's a no-no. Huh, okay. More things to address here. Little detail stuff. Not anything that keeps the system from booting. It's just not the way it should be, but, you know, it'll work. He's already figured out. Come on now. That sucker is very difficult to release that lever. Where's my GPU removal tool? Will this do it? I don't know. It's not strong enough. I'm going to need probably just a flat blade screwdriver here, a long one. Heck, you know what? This will probably do the job. Let's see. Definitely want to give that a bit of a wiggle. There, that opened. Come on now. Want to let it go? Separation anxiety. Now, come out. Set it over here. Go. Let's grab 970 Evo. So sealed in the box, all brand new. Yeah, you really want to release the that catch on the video card before trying to pull the video card out. If the video card sits on an angle, the part that's not latched then puts extra pressure on the latch, which makes that latch harder to move. So you want to keep the video card seated in the slot fully and release the latch completely, and then try and take it out again. All right, so there's the drive right there. We want to go up here. This should be the fast slot up here. Interesting. It seems that one screw is captive and this one isn't. Very strange. And we're missing an M.2 screw. So we'll pop that in there, like so. Should have a spare M.2 screw. That'll ruin your whole day, not having that screw. So the problem when you buy a used case is whether or not you get all of the screws that the case came with. Or in this case, it would be with the motherboard for the M.2 screw. So never mind what I just said about the case. Let's see, I think this little screw right here, no, that one's too small. What about this one? That one looks too wide. Those are all too tiny, I think. That, oh, no, that one looks too small. Will it be this one? Don't know. Let's find out. Just looks a little bit big, but it might be the right one. That bad boy's falling out of its socket. There we go. It's too big. That's what I was afraid of. I think my other ones are too small. Whoa. Well, there's one way to find out. We'll try one of these. These are super, super tiny. Focus. There it is. Very narrow, tiny little screw. Oh. No, it won't tighten. It just goes in and spins, so it's just a little too narrow. That's what I was afraid of. We need kind of something in the middle. Maybe these screws over here might work. What if I tried one of those screws that comes with the S880 drives we were testing the other day. Oof, that is super, super tiny. I don't think that's gonna work. Well, let's give it a shot. So I take the cover off first. I think that's going to be too small. Well, let's find out. One way or another, that screw's coming out of the package anyway. Whether it goes into my bag of M2 screws or ends up staying in this system remains to be seen. Oh, it fit. Perfect. We got lucky. What a coincidence that we just happen to be working on that after testing these drives, and normally drives don't come with the screws. So yeah, those little M.2 screws, they can be a real pain because different motherboard manufacturers use different size threads. It's not like you're just going to run over to the hardware store and buy those. All right, now I need to put all my little M.2 screws back before I lose them because they are super, super tiny. Thank goodness for a magnetized screwdriver. Okay. No big deal. DJ Big Red said it's got an AMD Ryzen 9 3900X, 12 core, 24 thread. Hey, that's a nice CPU. I built a couple of 3900Xs here on the channel. Okay, so now we're going to peel this tape off. The thermal, there's like some thermal tape and there's like protective tape on the tape. Yeah, got to remove the tape from the tape. And I put my screwdriver away like my OCD got me again. I'm done with my screwdriver. Let's see, I think that went on this way. Not sure I want to do this. Normally, I would lay the system down to work on it so that I could set this down with gravity, but then you guys won't get much of a view. Not even sure you're getting much of a view right now anyway, but doing the best I can. That one. Perfect. Okay, so we can install Windows 11. With the other two drives disconnected, I don't have to worry about accidentally deleting the drives or selecting the wrong drive because I wasn't paying enough attention. And obviously, I need to put the video card back in it. Let's go with Windows 11. We'll pick a blue port right up here. We definitely want to leave the network unplugged because we don't want Windows to force us to create an online user account. Now, whether or not DJ Big Red uses an online user account, he can set that up optionally when he gets the system back. But for now, we're just going to have it boot up with a local account, so it goes right into the Windows desktop. Let's see. Paul Howe says there are 2 white and 2 black sticks of RAM. Did I miss 2 sticks of RAM? Oh, I did. You are correct. See, you guys, when I get the close-up camera, you can see it better than I can. He does, in fact, have 2 sticks of Corsair RAM non-RGB, and he has 2 sticks of white Corsair RAM that is RGB. Very unusual choice there. At least he's got them in the proper channels, which is good. Well, good catch. He also says the rear fan is bringing air in instead of blowing air out. It is facing the wrong direction. Another good catch. That is correct, and we will address that. So what he's got is he's got 3 fans bringing air this way and 1 fan bringing air in this way, and then the air is colliding in the middle, and therefore your cooling is going to suffer because you're impeding your own airflow. All your airflow you want moving in one direction. Typically, we bring the air in from the front and out the back, or we bring it in from the lower front and out through the rear or out through the top, not both, unless there's a radiator up here. And if there is, then you don't need the rear fan because, again, you're impeding your own airflow. You got to pick a direction you want your air to go. It's a very simple mistake, and clearly things I myself have overlooked. So sharp eye. Thank you, Paul. So let's see, Samuel Kowalski with a $2 super chat. Right on. Thank you, Samuel. Generally speaking, when it comes to adding RAM, for the sake of system stability, you want to add the same RAM. Ideally, you want to have 2 sticks of RAM and not use 4. 4 will almost always impede your ability to do XMP or DOCP. It limits you. On top of that, you're increasing the odds of a RAM incompatibility issue. You're also increasing the odds of a RAM failure. If you only have 2 sticks of RAM, you only have 2 sticks of RAM that can fail. So if what he was doing was going, with 4 sticks of 8 gigs each, so he was getting to, let's say, 32, it would have been my advice to simply replace the 2 8s and replace them with 2 16s, leaving 2 additional slots open to add 2 additional 16s in the future if you wanted to. This is typically what's done by people trying to save money. Something was on sale in most cases and they slapped it in, or somebody had something extra and gave it to him. That's usually how it happens, and people will often get themselves in trouble with that. They say, oh, thank you for the free stuff, or it's a great price on that, and then they end up actually slowing their system down if the RAM's not the exact same with the specifications. Also could be introducing problems with the system and could be slowing the system down with regards to things like DOCP and XMP, which are going to work better with just 2 sticks. So again, it's not that you can't do it, but it's less trouble if you just use 2 sticks. It reduces the odds of failure or incompatibility and increases your success of using the most megahertz out of that RAM, using the highest frequency. So, but again, it's really minor little stuff. It's not that big of a deal. Frank says, Carey, if there was a place to put a fan on the side panel, which way should the fan go? Many side panels have the option to put a fan on them, but you should not use them. Basically, the reason for those fans, so people are fascinated with heat on the internet, despite the fact that I very rarely meet anybody in real life that ever has a heat-related computer problem. There's this weird sickness. It's like a mental illness or a disease where people, if there's a spot for a fan, they want to put a fan there. Like, there's a lot of folks right now out at in Taipei, Taiwan, where they're doing the Computex show, and they're showing off cases that have fans across the bottom of the case. You should never put fans on the bottom of the case. What they should be doing is just selling a fan-shaped RGB, because that's all they really want. Because you're just turning your computer into an expensive vacuum cleaner, and you're really hindering your airflow. So if you have a space for a fan on the side of your case, I strongly advise you not to use it. To answer your question, since you're probably not going to listen to me anyway, it should blow inward over your graphics card. So if you have a spot, like the Corsair 200R has a place for 2 fans on the panel. You've never, ever seen me put a fan on the side. If If I had a graphics card in there that was running a bit warm, which shouldn't be the case anymore, but 20 years ago, then I would align that fan to be so the airflow blows over the graphics card, whether that means the fan goes towards the top or towards the bottom, and a case panel that allows for two. It also ends up tying your case panel to your motherboard, which makes the panel a little tricky to remove without ripping the cable off. So I strongly, strongly advise you never ever put a fan on the side of a computer. You just want fans on the front and on the rear or the top. Front and rear is traditional. If you have a radiator on top, then we would go from the front and your airflow would come in and then go up. If we're going to be blowing air out the top, then we want to remove this magnetic filter because we don't filter exhaust air. So we would take this off or it would impede our exhaust. On the other hand, if you wanted to bring the air in this way, I suppose you could do that along with the fans in the front. You're still going to have a collision. You're going to have air coming in like this. And then trying to push it out the back then is going to be very difficult. So if you have fans on the top, I strongly recommend use them as exhaust. And if you do use them as exhaust, take the magnetic filter off. Okay. I appreciate the question. Run your own, don't take my word for anything. Run your own experiments, add more fans, and let me know if it makes any difference in the world on your temperature of your system. It won't. It really won't. Basically, as long as you have one fan up front and one fan in the back, you're going to be fine. And furthermore, you don't even need the fan up front. The fan in the back will create a natural vacuum, and it's going to pull air that it needs in through the front of the case. So the only time I put fans on the front of the case is if it's for an RGB aesthetic, or if there's a graphics card I want to blow air over. And so in this case, we do have a graphics card that we do want to blow air over. And I also see he has not removed all the plastic from it. And once again, not a system issue here. It's just an OCD thing because it just looks terrible when this plastic yellows and bubbles like it's doing. It looks terrible. And of course, these fans face down where we never see them anyway. But yeah, I think the obsession with fans it's fascinating and it's sad that so many people have this anxiety for no reason whatsoever. You're trying to fix problems you don't have, which is going to be spending money you don't need to spend to do work you don't need to do. And at the end, will make no difference whatsoever on the reliability or performance of your computer. Some people just do it for the looks. Some people, they're doing it for the RGB. That's fine. That's what you want to do. But let's be honest with each other about what you're really doing it for. If you're honestly concerned about cooling, I would suggest if you're having heat-related problems, putting a fan on it is not your solution. You've got a problem that needs to be fixed, likely an overvoltage problem. And when you solve that, your system won't overheat anymore. That's my opinion, even if you didn't ask for it. All right, let's see. Craig Casabona contributes $20 in Super Chat. Thank you, Craig. Let's see, how do I get this back in there? I'm going to put this screw back temporarily, but I'm going to replace these with black hex head screws so we don't have this problem in the future, just for the aesthetic. It's weird to me that people will go for the aesthetic of RGB and then not care about the color or shape of the screws matching. Because if you care about the aesthetic enough to spend the extra money for the RGB, why is it that so often people just grab any old screw and they don't care what it looks like to put in the RGB? It's like, wait, what? Again, it's just something as a system builder that I pay attention to. And it's just very common to see a lot of home-built computers where screws are missing entirely or the wrong screws are used. And yet the screws are being used to hold in something that's there for looks. It doesn't make any sense to me. Just an observation, that's all. Not so much a criticism, so much as it puzzles me, puzzles my brain. This piece is really going to get on my nerves. Let's go ahead and take this piece out. Not a fan of cases that use these latches here. So we'll put that back in when we're done because we're going to be going in and out of here a bit. Okay, there's that one. And then I'll grab another one. Another black screw. Let's see. I know I have some more. There's one for the Wi-Fi card. This little black hex head screws, you can buy a package of 50 of these on Amazon for like $5, $6. And they're the most common size screw used to typically hold in your PCIe cards, a lot of times your case panels. Go. Okay, and then that one we'll get rid of. Don't need that one anymore. So we need to put some power into this video card. Plug power back in. And I need to plug my HDMI cable back in there, which is on the floor here somewhere, right? Yep, here it is. Here we go, plug that in there. Keyboard and mouse, Windows 11, power on. And in theory, oh, I can see why this fan isn't turning. That thing is very stiff. It's all bound up. Yeah. Fan is gone. Now, in theory, it'll boot to that Windows 11 installation media because there's nothing else bootable that we've left plugged in. So let me go over to the HDMI input, and we'll put myself here up in the corner again. Oh, hello. What is this? This drive was created by Rufus. It was? Oh, we're not in UEFI on the BIOS? Well, that could be why the system that wasn't booting, is simply the BIOS setting changed. That could be right. Why? Jim KJ3N said the BIOS is set to compatibility support mode, or CSM. Greg M says, yes, I've seen this error before. Stealth mode says, his BIOS is in legacy mode. That would absolutely explain why the system didn't boot, and it's another reason why you don't just immediately go and reformat, right? If you have another drive laying around, play around and poke around with the other drive, and if you can figure it out, then you can go back to the original drives and resuscitate them, if you will. I still think he's due for a clean install anyway. So let's go ahead and let me kill camera one so we can see the whole screen. And let's do a control, well, not on this system. I got to go to the right system, Control Alt Delete. And we'll go into the BIOS. Just bear with me here for a moment. Into the BIOS. Come on, baby. Oh, it's an MSI motherboard, a B550 Gaming Plus with BIOS version, what? 130. I wonder if we have a newer BIOS than this available. What I would do is I would go into, yes, settings over here. And then I would go to save and exit and see if there's a load optimized settings. Restore defaults, yes. And save changes and reboot. Let's see. Oh, look what it changed. Yeah. CSM mode was on, as properly identified in the chat room there. It's moving CSM mode to UEFI, changing the disabled boot options back to enabled and back to the same order. And CSM support is also disabled. Not sure why he had CSM support turned on, but we're going to just reset back to default. And Beardum says it showed 48 gigs of RAM. So it sounds like he's got a pair of 8s and a pair of 16s. Let me go back in that BIOS again. Did we not have secure boot on? Someone mentioned that. Let's take another look. Back over to settings. And advanced. Oh, I guess I probably wanted boot. Screen display. And you know what? We can turn these off. It's fine. We'll leave USB on there. Disable that. And as for secure boot, just in there. Oops. Go back. System status. Secure boot. Yeah, we'll enable that. Good catch. And how was I doing this without your help before? Chat room. Okay. Escape, escape, escape. Settings, settings, save and exit. Save changes and reboot. And now it should boot to the flash drive, which is a Windows 11 installer. John Famlor says this seems like a good first step is to just go into the BIOS and load optimized defaults before you try and fix anything. Yes, that would be when you're working with a system, like in this case, one I never built, one I've never configured. I don't know what the person before me did. So it's always a good step and good practice to reset the BIOS and restore back to default settings when things aren't working. There certainly should be no harm in it. And that could save you a lot of time. So we're going to say I don't have a product key. Windows 11 Pro. This PC cannot run Windows 7. Okay, well, there's some other setting in the BIOS we need to adjust. So let's reset. Senior Me says the BIOS is almost 3 years old. Yeah, there's probably a newer BIOS out for this. But just out of curiosity here, let's take a look at advanced and under, let's see, would it be under Super IO? No. Secure Erase, no. ACPI. Looking for the platform trust or FTPM setting, trusted computing, security device. We need that enabled. Yeah, there's the FTPM. That has to be turned on for Windows 11 compatibility. Save, configuration, and exit. And we're going to try this one more time, and hopefully Windows 11 will say, okay, everything looks good this time. We'll pass their little test. Once again, booting from that flash drive. And once again, answering these questions the same way every single time. Don't have a product key. Windows 11 Pro. Next. See if we get past this screen. This PC doesn't meet the minimum system requirements. All right, still missing something else. So what I think I want to do to make my life a little easier is see if there's a newer BIOS that sets those default settings for Windows 11 compliance instead of searching in the BIOS for the setting. The companies do this to avoid unnecessary tech support calls. So let's take a look at, let's see, I'm going to open up my browser here. And this is, what did I say this was? An MSI. I can't see it on the board, so I think what I'm going to have to do is go back in the BIOS because it told me what the system was in the BIOS. Let's go to, let's go back to the system here and we'll set. Keep pushing the RGB button. Oh, Ahmed just told me in the chat room what it is. That's all right. I'm already going in. MSI B550 Gaming Plus. MSI B550 Gaming Plus with version 1.30 installed. I have to pay attention to that because I want to make sure I'm at the right website when I go there. So share my screen with you guys. Go over to the window capture mode. So we're on the streamer. MSI B550 Gaming Plus. And the first link should take us to msi.com. It does. And then we're looking for the support area. So it says support up here, and it should say support down here. So this support up here is for general support for other products. The support down here is for the support for the product page that you're on. So that's the one we want. Drivers and downloads, BIOS. Okay, we have version 1.30. And if we look down through here, we can see version 1.30 right here. Then there was a 1.4 and a 1.5 and a 1.6 and a 1.7 and a 1.8. There's where support for Windows 11 comes in. Then there's a 1.9, a 1C, and a 1D. Now, I don't see any of these requiring a previous BIOS here. So let's go ahead and grab the latest one, and we'll just skip over all those other ones. We'll just get the latest one, and we'll extract this file. And I'm going to copy the BIOS file itself onto a flash drive here. Where am I going? I need to go to the streamer, Carey. I need to go over here to the streaming computer. There we go. Right click and paste onto that flash drive. Oh, I got a couple BIOSes on this flash drive. I don't normally keep files on that flash drive, but we got a number of projects going on at the same time. And I'm not done with those files yet, so you'll get the rare experience of watching me having to pick through a number of files to pick the right BIOS flash file. When there's only one file on the drive, obviously the chances of making a mistake are 0, unless of course you just copied the wrong file. All right, so let's go back now to the, let's see. How do I want to do this? I want to put the close-up camera up a little higher. It's the window capture. Okay. Go full screen on my side so I can see it as nice as you guys can see it. Then let's go to setting, M-Flash, USB flash. Enter flash mode, yes. It's gonna restart the computer, at least with this motherboard, and enter us into a flash mode. There we go, your flash mode. And the 1D0 file is the one I want. Down here, it tells us our current BIOS, version 130, and the build date, along with the one we're going to, selected BIOS. I want to make sure that the model name matches exactly. It's really faded down here. I can't really see it. Enter to select, so I'll hit enter. Sure, yes. And BIOS is updating, and we're off to the races. All right, now let me go pay attention to the chat room and see what I'm missing here. DJ Big Red with $1.99 says he doesn't know how his BIOS changed. Ryan won full in Canada with $1.10 Canadian contributed. DJ Big Red earlier contributed $4.99. It said there's an Audi S4 twin turbocharged out here that runs 14 rev computer fans instead of a radiator fan. I'm surprised those fans can move enough air. It's crazy. Zach Bischoff says, hello, Carey, just finished high school today. I was excited when I saw repair videos scheduled. Great stuff. School's not out for summer? Was that the last day of high school today, or do you go to school all year round there? Paul M with a $5 super chat says, I remember the days when it took hours to install and configure Windows. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, was it? Of course, we haven't even begun our Windows 11 install yet. We've got to get our BIOS up to date here. Mike Quinton contributed $20. He said, is there a CPU speed limit on a PC? That's going to be determined by your CPU. Is there something particular you're trying to accomplish? I'm looking to see if I've missed any other contributions here. Bloviator Maximus became a member. Right on. Hey, welcome to the Tech Club, Bloviator. Frank Jimmy contributes $5. He says, thank you for addressing my question. Your many years of PC building experience is always appreciated, honored, and respected. Keep up the great content. Thank you, Frank. Chris, the PC doctor, with a $2 super chat, said the storms are now firing off in Minnesota, some severe. Sounds like the weather's nice and cool, though. We could use a little rain out here. Enjoy the rain is what I'm trying to say. AJ Big Red with $4.99 in super chat says, I remember when it was a multiple floppy disks to install anything. Yeah. I knew that world quite well. That was my everyday world in the 90s. Let's see. Let me go back now to my, how we doing? Still updating. That's a big BIOS. I guess I'll grab a cold Gatorade while we're waiting. And if you have any questions for me, go ahead and fire them off in the chat. I'll do my best to provide an answer. Or better yet, another chat participant may have your answer. Remember yesterday I was playing with that High-Point RAID controller and I couldn't figure out how to get in the BIOS? And remember how I said there were two firmwares, one UEFI and one non-UEFI? Well, because we have the UEFI BIOS version of the RAID card, it adds itself to your computer's BIOS. It's weird. I was playing around in the BIOS after the show, and I'm looking through some of the submenus, and there was an option that never appeared before in the BIOS that said HPT RAID controller. HPT is High Point Technologies. And it just goes right into your BIOS. Wow, that's pretty cool. So another feature of UEFI. So clearly, if you didn't have a UEFI BIOS, the only way to get into that High Point controller would be a control, usually it's like Control I or something at boot up. And that must be what the other firmware is for an older legacy motherboard. But that's really neat. And I'll do a follow-up. I'm still working with tech support to figure out what's happening with the card. And who knows, maybe by the time I'm done with the show tonight, maybe they'll have an email response. They asked me to send them some logs from the High Point software, which I did, and then we'll see what they have to say. Could just be the motherboard we're using. Mike Visions contributes £4 and says, good evening, Carey, and all in chat. Here's my late fee. Hey, right on. Thank you, Mike. Zach says, in high school, it was the last day for seniors today. The rest of the students are done on June 7th. I guess you guys started school in September then, huh? They start out here in August. Andy Kane says hello. Hey, hello, Andy. And while that's running, I'm going to step. Well, you guys can't see me anyway, so you won't even know I'm stepping away for a minute. Okay, sorry about that. Didn't miss anything, did I? It's still updating this BIOS. Wow, that's taken a while. CCTV user says, Carey, have you seen the new motherboards on the way where all the connectors are on the back of the board? Well, you better hope new cases are coming that'll have cutouts for those connectors. Yeah, I'm seeing all the same stuff you guys are seeing from Computex, so. Yep. Don't know why it's taken them this long to figure that out, though. Those cable management's been an issue for at least 15 years. But, I mean, I suppose we're getting there, but case manufacturers are going to have to accommodate for that, or you're not going to be able to install your board. Will it retrain the RAM from scratch? Likely it will, yeah. I expect it to. So now it says no signal because it's applying that new BIOS and doing its post again. I'm going to hit delete and get into that BIOS now. And we're going to load the optimized defaults. So let's do that now. You definitely want to do this anytime you update a BIOS. So now we're at 1D0, which has a date of April 28th, 2023. That's much more recent. And this all looks different now, doesn't it? Want to go to, they move it. Where's advanced? Oh, up here. Oh, we were in advanced. Now we're in easy mode. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, I'm gonna go back into advanced, and just advanced looks weird to me now. Let's do boot order, CPU, storage fan, hardware monitor, favorites, easy LED control. I don't want any of this. Where is save and exit? Where did it move? So it says easy mode right here. Huh. Where did all my menu options go, MSI? Wow, that's weird. John English contributes £2. He says that Ryzen 9 CPU is going to need a way better cooler than stock. Well, he hasn't had any heat-related problems, or none that he's told me about. But we'll look into that a little later. We can run Prime 95 and torture it. UEFI, HCI, where is save and exit? Why am I not seeing save and exit? MSI save and exit is under motherboard settings. Okay, where are motherboard settings? Where are those? CPU, ERP, HD audio. Don't see anything that says about CPU. That doesn't seem to be doing. I guess that's where we're. Click on advanced and then settings. Well, that's advanced. And then settings. Oh. Huh. I thought this was easy mode the way it looked easy. What do I know? We want to restore defaults. Save changes and reboot. You've not made any changes to the BIOS. Okay. Fair enough. And system's powering off and powering back on. And while it does that, I'm going to pull that flash drive and put my Windows 11 flash drive back in. Hopefully I did that in time. We'll find out in a minute. Yeah, I'm not familiar with MSI BIOSes at all, obviously. So I appreciate the tip, guys. Thank you, as always. Now it says no signal as the BIOS is apparently training the RAM, or I don't know what it's doing. Taking a little bit longer than it normally does. And it should start booting, I hope. Well, it says no signal again. So that implies to me that the BIOS is training the RAM in the CPU, and then it's rebooting. And it'll repeat that a couple of times. That's normal during our first boot up with the new BIOS. And yes, it is now loading from the flash drive. Jerome contributes $3 in Super Chat. Thank you, Jerome. Okay, so next, install. I don't have a product key. Windows 11 Pro. Next. End user license agreement, agreed. No more complaints about not being Windows 11 compatible. Custom install. There's our new 1 terabyte Samsung 970 EVO. And so now it's going to partition and format those partitions and copy all the files over that it needs so that when it reboots, it can start the Windows 11 install. And so while we're waiting, let's see, can I put myself back? Put myself in a corner. And let's take a look at what you guys have been talking about. Looks like a mini PC wants to be delivered. So I will let DHL know that they can just leave that at the door. June 6th, it says. Okay. Well, I guess I have a mini PC coming on June 6th. It's not too far away. Okay. Paul O'Brien has become a supporter at the channel. Right on. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for supporting the channel here and helping keep me. Well, I'm not entirely sponsor free, but the sponsors I'm taking on are products I use and highly recommend. RoboForm, from time to time, Acronis, all year round with the folks at VIP CDK deals. I think I have a little banner for them I can put up on the screen. Still have it? OBS? I mean, I know I still have the banner. Yeah, there it is. And the links for the products that I'm showing on the screen are in the video description below the video, below this video. Pretty much below every video I do. All right, system has a black screen. It's doing something. Looks like it's rebooting. Roy Glass joins us in the chat and says hello. Welcome in, Roy. How's the chat room doing here? What do we have for viewers today? 624 people are watching live. Welcome in, everybody. If you're new here, we do everything live, unscripted. Everything you see is real and happening in real time. This is not one of those highly polished commercials you might be accustomed to watching here on YouTube. And if you enjoy that, well, that's what we do here. Every video. So I hope you'll come back and see some more. DJ Big Red contributes $4.99. says, Derek, the friend that helped me build it, is watching. Are you trying to say that you're not entirely to blame for the little nitpicky things that I'm pointing out? You're like, Derek did it. Is that how you're going to play it? And Biophobic says the only reason I've heard of RoboForm was because of Carey's videos. It's one of the greatest investments I've ever made. Hey, look at that. That's a heck of an endorsement from somebody I don't even know. So right on. I use the product myself. I've been using RoboForm for over 15 years anyway. Gotta say, I like it. Couldn't tell. And there's a discount code of 30% off an annual subscription for new subscribers. Okay, let me finish up my Windows 11 install. United States, yes. Yes. Skip. I'm going to tell it I don't have internet right now. Continue with limited setup. Enter your name. So what do we put? DJ Big Red. Is that what you want? I know there's a slight delay, so I have to wait for DJ Big Red to respond to me. Or do you want me to put some other name in here? George Z says, hello, Carey from Cleveland. Sorry I'm late. Welcome in, George. DJ Big Red says, okay. All right, we'll hit next. And keep password blank. We leave location settings on. That way the date and time can be set for us and kept current. But everything else I switch off. Hit accept. And then it'll finish up, and then we can go do our Windows updates after that. Once the Windows updates are done, then we can plug in either the mechanical or the SSD, and we'll see what those drive health statuses look like. As for the fan not spinning, these are Thermaltake fans. We can look and see if we can buy a matching Thermaltake, or we have to replace all three fans in order for them to match and be compatible for the RGB to align properly. But while we're waiting here, let me see what model of Thermaltake fans we have. So I'm going to go over to Amazon. These Thermaltakes are TT-125. So I'll do a search on Amazon for TT-1225. Interestingly, it pulls up black fans. We need RGB fan. So I'll put in the word RGB. Thermaltake, there's a kit of 3. I might have better luck on eBay. Because it looks like those are old fans they don't make anymore, or at least Amazon's not selling them. Thermaltake one, I say it was 1225. Thermaltake Rosewell TT-1225. Let me take a look at those. Looks like they're black frames with white fins, or clear fins. Thermaltake PC case fan. New condition, $12.99, buy it now. That's the one we want right there. I think. No, that's black fins. That's not going to be RGB. Yeah, we might have to change all 3 fans to get them to match. However, that's not my biggest concern right now. Let me get back over to the desktop and see, I need to go full screen over here. I need to plug the internet into it because I can now start doing the updates. So where's my Ethernet cable? No, it's on the floor. It's somewhere here on the floor. Am I standing on it? No. Good. All right, so we're done with our Windows 11 installation media. Plug the internet in. Might have some fans we can use laying around. I'll have to take a look. And let's see, I want to get this mouse. And we'll go here, here. There's update. Check for updates. Okay. We're going to let that rock and roll, and while that's running, I have a kit Antex fans down here. And I have a number of non-RGB fans, but it's a little dusty. There's 3 fans right there. I'm assuming they're the same size. Oh, it won't matter. This will take either size. What else? I think if there's another set of RGB fans I might have. These are going into a controller. It's a Thermaltake controller. This must be a Thermaltake case. Ah, it is. It says Thermaltake right on it. This is a Thermaltake case, and it came with these fans and this controller here on the side. It says Thermaltake right on the side here of the fan controller, the RGB controller. Then up here it says Thermaltake. So knowing what the case is, that'll make our search for a replacement fan easy peasy. Mystery solved. Nick Poverman thinks if all we did was turn CSM back on, the system will likely boot like it did before. But I think with the new BIOS and with Windows 11, I think instead of just having the system boot, we should wipe it clean. He's only got games on here. He can go back to Steam and re-download his games. And let him start off with a nice clean install that's done to my satisfaction, because I don't know what condition it was in and what other unknown changes might have occurred that could have impacted system performance, system reliability, etc. So, well, you could be correct that all we had to do was turn CSM back on and we would boot up again. We don't know that the system would be performing optimally. And then, of course, when the time came to put Windows 11 on it, it would still be Windows 11 incompatible without that BIOS update. So it would just end up coming back again. So I'm trying to do everything I can as though I built it myself, so that when it leaves here, it should never ever come back again unless it's an upgrade. My goal is to put myself out of business. I shouldn't build them as well as I do. I'm kidding. Of course, I'm going to build them as best I can, because I want to make sure my customers only come back to me because they want to, not because they have to. Don't wipe out all of his game saves. Yeah, I'll talk to him about that before I wipe anything. Placing fans that still work doesn't have to mean wasting them. It can be used in another computer. Well, clearly there's a lot of dust buildup on them. And so while they're working today, they have a reduced lifespan. And I have no shortage of system fans. So typically, because the fans in the front are mostly used for aesthetic reasons, we want them to match in a best case scenario, I would just replace the bad fan. I could also lubricate that bottom fan and get it working again, but I'm concerned that once it fails the first time, it's just a matter of time before it fails again. So it may be a good time. The system's a few years old. Go ahead and replace the fans. And I would not use them in another customer's system because it's a reflection on me. I understand you're a home user and you're going to grab what's ever laying around. It doesn't matter if it's dusty or dirty or it only has a few months of life in it. You have more time than I have. I'm in business, and my goal is to get things replaced right the first time and make sure that we're not repurposing old equipment that ends up costing me money in warranty support as well as damaging my reputation. It's not worth it for a $10 or $20 fan. I understand the concern about e-waste. I do have a friend that I give my old electronic stuff to, and he'll recycle things. He'll strip the copper out of things and the gold traces and stuff like that. But yeah, it doesn't go into the garbage can if that's what you're asking. Would you do a backup of his drives before you wipe them? No. What I would do is verify that the drives work. That's my first concern. Are we having a drive-related problem? Because what he described to me sounded like a drive-related problem, but it may not be. It may have just been a BIOS problem. I asked him if there was any data he was worried about on the drives, and he said no. He's only using this for gaming. It doesn't matter. If a customer were to say to me, would you back up my drives? You have to understand there is not a business in the world, not a big professional business that does that for their customers. You go into any computer repair shop and there's always a big sign on the wall that says we're not responsible for data loss. It's on you to back up your own stuff. But I'm not like those big companies. If a customer says their system's not booting and they have data they haven't backed up, then I'm going to do what I can to get that data off for them. So there are circumstances when I do that, but I don't just do it willy-nilly. It's too time-consuming. And if it's not necessary, if there's no information on there, if it's just games, you can just reload the games. But I will verify with him before I erase, because that's just common courtesy. Before I erase anything, I'm going to ask him, are we good to erase this? And if there's anything he wants off of the drives, he can tell me and I will pull those off, but I'm not backing those drives up. No. DJ Big Bread says, just wipe it all. He says, I can get all the programs back. See, and that's what I want to hear. So many times, people will speak out in defense, like, are you going to do this for this person? They don't even know the person. They don't know what me and the person have talked about. And so it's not really in your place to, and maybe that's not what you meant by your question, but it kind of came off like you're protecting this customer. As I mentioned, the customer and I had already had this discussion, so we already knew what was coming. Not that he couldn't change his mind, but I will, well, he just verified with me. He doesn't care about the stuff. And that just makes everybody's life so much less complicated. Guy Sternitsky contributes $2, says, hello, Carey. It's good to see you again. Hi, Guy or Guy. Thank you for your super chat contribution. Ron wants to know if I'm going to flip around that back fan. Oh, yes, for sure. I am going to flip around the back fan. Unfortunately, I just can't do all these things at once. So sometimes you guys are going so far ahead of me. It sort of breaks my focus sometimes when you're jumping far ahead. But yeah, my goal is to put all this right? And that includes, if I have to replace these 3 fans, then I'll replace them. The rear fan's fine, it just needs to be flipped around. The cable management needs to be cleaned up, but all that will come in time. Right now, we just want to make sure the system is left to operate and to grab all these updates, and we don't want to short circuit anything, getting our hands in there and trying to do 2 things at once like that. Too risky. Let's take a look here. What we're installing a big cumulative update here. And I just heard a package get dropped off at the door. So bear with me for just a second. I'm going to step off camera to grab that. Find Me in Hawaii says, you trained us well. It's not the first time I've heard that where I'm like, why are you asking me this? You know I'm going to do that. Well, because you trained me to ask you. Stand by for a second, guys. That was Amazon dropping off a mini PC I've got to review next week. And still expecting UPS here today too, so expect more interruptions. Okay. Michael Dane's got an update to an article I published on my Twitter page regarding Gigabyte's BIOS. Appreciate the update, Michael. I will add that. I'll broadcast that out on my Twitter. And then we'll check the activation status too to see if his previous OS, which is obviously Windows 10 at this point, since that's a free upgrade to Windows 11, will it take his Windows 10 product key and automatically assign it and activate it to Windows 11? Don't know. We'll find out though after we do our first reboot. Something else for us to look into. And it looks like we're pending a restart, so let's go ahead and restart it. And this should boot up much, much faster than it's ever booted for him. And then, of course, I will hook up, eventually, I'll hook up the SATA storage drive, make sure that's good and ready to go. And then I'll hook up the 3.5-inch mechanical drive. And that way we're just hooking up one thing at a time. And if anything stops working or we end up having a problem, we know it's the last thing we did. If you try to do everything at once and then something doesn't work, as a technician working in the field, that kind of behavior can get you demoted or fired from your position, because you will, if that's your habit, then you will take too long to fix computers, because you will have to figure out what it was you did that caused the problem versus why you were sent there for what problem to fix. So I have this technique that was forced upon me, for lack of a better explanation. And my goal here is to share with you the real working computer technician's processes, so that if you're thinking of becoming a computer tech in real life, you have a better idea of what to expect, the kind of workflow that you'll do, kind of work you'll do. And it's nothing like what you see on these big YouTube tech channels. You're not going to be installing liquid coolers. You will not be overclocking. You likely won't be doing anything with RGB, at least not in a professional corporate IT environment. On the other hand, you could also be making very, very good money and enjoying and loving your job, because you're still problem solving, but now you're doing it under a stopwatch. And that means you have to keep moving. There's not a whole lot of time to dilly-dally, to do a lot of research. Just if it's above you, you escalate the ticket to the next tier up and you move on to the next ticket. And you'll do that 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, maybe, if you get any vacation or not. 8 hours a day, plus a half hour or an hour for lunch. Yeah. And welcome to the life of an IT support technician in real life versus what you see here on YouTube overall from the big content creators, which are just folks just having fun. They're under no particular clock. They have no particular responsibility. They don't really have to answer to anybody, and nothing they do holds any consequence except to themselves. That's a really fun thing. And, you know, it's sort of like when you go to the park to play baseball with your friends versus if you're on a team and you're playing baseball against other teams, then showing up on time and following all the rules, right? So everything's fair. It does take a little bit of the fun out of it. But there is a very big difference between what the hobbyists do and what the professionals do. And all I'm trying to do is introduce you and make you familiar to those differences. I'm going to bring out later next week or the week after, I'm going to bring out some industrial sized managed Cisco switches and things. And I'm going to show you how those work and how they're very, very different from the stuff you're typically seeing on the enthusiast channels. Now, whether or not that's a benefit to you, I mean, that's for you to decide, but there's a very big difference between those two. And when you're watching content or reading about content on the internet, I want you to understand where the source is coming from for that information, so you understand how to categorize that information. I'm not suggesting some information is more valuable than others, but I am saying that the source of the information may be more valuable to you based on what your interests are and what it is the reason why you're watching the videos, right? If you're doing that because you want to get into a career, a lot of what they're showing you on these big tech channels is not helpful. It's entertaining. It can be fun. You likely won't be doing any of that work. Okay, let's see. Let's go to, I get rid of that icon. So I'll do search permissions and history. Scroll down here to show search highlights. We'll turn that off. Then we'll go back to Windows Update, download and install. And while it's doing that, let's take a look at our activation settings, see if Windows is activated. Yeah, it automatically activated itself. So that's good. So it carried over his Windows 10 product key. And over to System again. Let's go to About. Yeah, there's our processor. It's the RAM. 1122H2. Everything looks good. All right. And time to restart again. And around the wheel goes. Everything's moving along swimmingly now. I like to see that the front port umbilicals were hooked up correctly. Sometimes people get the cables on backwards and the power light doesn't work or the hard drive light doesn't work. In this case, they did put those front port umbilicals on in the right orientation, in the right spots. So that tickles me, makes me happy. My friend Ron said it's 94 degrees in Sun City with humidity at a whopping 15%. Has it climbed to 94 already? Just says 88 here. How could it be 6 degrees cooler? That doesn't make any sense. Zvi wants to know if we'll see the ASRock 13.3-inch side panel tomorrow. I don't think so. I think the Cube computer build is coming up tomorrow, or the TP-Link Wi-Fi 7 router, if it shows up in time. I think the side panel for that live mixer build, that's all going to go together. I do have all the parts. I just don't have enough filming time. Might be able to get to it over the weekend. We'll see how time goes here. But it's coming soon. Coming soon. Just don't know specifically when yet. So again, if you ever see Windows Update doing this, it's likely because it's either already downloaded and installed those things. My advice to you is do not try to fix this. It will fix itself, usually within 24 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this cumulative update. We'll put that on. And then I also want to see if we're missing any drivers in the device manager that we're going to have to grab from the motherboard maker. Let's take a look. No, everything seems happy. We can put the AMD Adrenalin software on there. And then we also want to download the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3070 video driver, which is like a 900 meg download. So a couple of big updates coming up. I'll also put on the Samsung NVMe driver and the Samsung Magician software as well. And I'll put VLC on just as a media player and go through the remove programs to take out the mixed reality portal and the Xbox stuff. It's going to come out. Just the normal stuff you see me do. So there's still a couple of hours of configuration and cable management that'll need to be done. And I'm going to have to do a little research on this fan because I do have the Fantex kit here, but I will have to replace the fan controller if I do that. So the area of least resistance is to simply replace this bottom fan. I do have a pen oiler with white lithium. No, what is it? It's not. It's a grease that can be used for these fans. So it's a small pen oiler, and when you peel the stickers off, there's usually like a little C-clip under there, and you can get in there and you can work that fan free and get that lubrication going. That would be sort of the poor man's fix, which isn't how I like to do things, but it's an option on the table. Preferably, I'd replace the fan and get the exact same make and model so we can pop that in. It's 4 screws and 2 wires. It's not a big deal. It's just finding that fan, which during a live video, I'm not at my best focus, and my Google foo is definitely not as accurate. So when I'm offline, my brain will slow down a bit and I can focus on one thing. Shouldn't have any problem finding it. Thermaltake's a big company. They made a lot of these, so I'm sure I can find one. Matt 92 Machine says it's thunderstorming here in Central Florida. If you've asked any questions and I haven't addressed them, it's because I haven't seen them. If you take this time now to put your question in the chat, I'll do my best to answer it. And also, as I mentioned, we have a lot of bright folks in our chat room that will also likely provide an answer to your question as well. So don't think I'm the only one with answers here. That's not the case at all. We're all a big community here, and love to see the community helping each other. So do be sure to watch the chat for responses if you have any questions. Trevor, again, speaking on behalf of a customer they don't know and has no idea what conversations we have had, is telling me what I should do for this customer. You really are overstepping your place when you do that. Just so you know, the customer has lips and a tongue and vocal cords. The customer has talked to me. They don't need you looking out for them. Ron Toomey said he could get matching RAM really cheap right now. Could. Don't really think he cares. Gary says, Carey, would you like a bunch of RGB fans? I have a load of them if you want. I appreciate the offer. I have a lot of fans myself. And the problem with fans are, especially if they're used, is we don't know how much life is left in them. So I don't want to put anything into a system that I've built that's got my reputation on it. Again, it's something I take my business very seriously because it's how I earn a living. And fans are not expensive. So while I appreciate the offer, I wouldn't use them. I would go with new. Jim Teal wants to know, what are my thoughts with those 2 terabyte mechanicals for backing up a gaming machine? That's entirely up to you. That's something you decide. That's not something I decide. So I know DJ Big Red said he didn't care about the RGB, but there's no simple fix for this. The simplest fix is to simply replace the bad fan, which means we keep the RGB. If he's saying he doesn't want RGB, that's a different story. If he's saying he doesn't care one way or the other, then my goal is to put it back the way it was, because then I'm only changing out 1 fan instead of changing out 3, which adds more work for me. Okay, so now we're waiting on another restart. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the power plan, because the computer keeps going to sleep after a couple minutes and shutting the monitor off. So I'll just type in the word plan, then edit power plan comes up. Yeah, that's why it's going to sleep here. We're going to change that to 2 hours, and we'll change this to never. Save changes, close that, and restart. And back around we go. DJ Big Red said, no worries, don't care. Yeah, let me do what I do. I'm gonna put it back right. It's all good. This is a problem when people start talking on behalf of other people they don't know. It's something that you wouldn't do in real life. You wouldn't step in front of somebody at a store and speak on their behalf. But people do this online all the time, and I don't know that they realize how rude and inconsiderate it is, not only to the person doing the work, but to the customer. And I know the intention is I meant to do good, but it really just kind of gets in the way unnecessarily. So just something to keep in mind. Of course, when we're working on your system and you want it done a certain way, then that's a different story entirely. Always accommodate my customers. So one of the downsides of being a content creator, like I am, showing real work, is sometimes I deal with people telling me how to do my job, or telling me what my customer wants when they don't even know my customer. And that can get under my skin. But it's kind of what comes with the territory of showing a repair. But if you don't pile on, I mean, I would appreciate that. But yeah, if you see things that I'm missing, like in the BIOS and settings and things, then absolutely, please speak up. Okay, let's take a look here at I'll do the Samsung Magician software. So let me grab my utilities flash drive here. Open folder to view files. Samsung Magician. Let's just copy this and copy this. And Uncle Carey's Windows 10 optimizer. Right here. And let's see, what else will we need? Let's do Crystal Disk Mark, so we can test the performance. And we'll bring across hardware info and Prime 95 and see how this cooler is actually doing on this chip. All the standard stuff I would do on a new build. I forgot VLC, didn't I? I guess I can just go ahead and install VLC. Stevenson said, it's a fantastic program and live stream today, Carey. You're fantastic as always. I learned a lot today. Just got to go and lay down. Catch you later on the next live stream. The heat has gotten to him. All right, Les. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Get some rest. I'll be here working. All right, so that's done. And now I can do the Samsung NVMe driver. Let's go ahead and put that in there. That'll require a reboot when it's done. And reboot it, and we'll do the Samsung Magician software next. DJ Big Red said he's going to use this for streaming on Twitch. Oh yeah, it'll handle that easy. But we're in 2 hours of today's video. We're going to wrap this one up here pretty soon. Because the other work I'm going to have to do, like finding a fan or figuring out what I want to do with this fan, I'm going to do that offline. The cable management, I'll do offline. But while we're waiting, I can go ahead and start the video driver download. So we'll go to video. Drivers. GeForce RTX. This is what, 3070. It's 30 series. Regular 3070. It's 11. Game ready. Output. Okay, and then we'll grab the AMD, say chipset software. Drivers and support. Chipset drivers for AM4. What do we say? This was a B550, I think. It was 11 chipset drivers. Those AMD Adrenaline. Download. Oh, that's exactly where we already were. Okay, I'm okay with that. So we'll let those things download, and then while that's downloading, I'm going to come back over here. I'll put the Samsung Magician in. This should be the latest version of Samsung Magician, which I think is 7.3.0, if I'm not mistaken. Next, next install. I mean, Hawaii says, mahalo, Carey. Had a great time. Everyone in the chat, you're awesome. Have a great rest of your day or night. Aloha from Ken Chong. Thank you, Ken. Have a good evening, my friend. Thanks for hanging out with us and for your super chat contribution earlier. Appreciate you. All right, here we go. Okay. That should be happy. Doesn't appear to be a new firmware update on the drive, so everything is cool. That means I can delete this and get it off the desktop, and I that Uncle Carey's Windows 10 optimizer. But I don't want to reboot because I'm downloading some files. Let's see how that's coming along. Almost done. Few seconds left, and our NVIDIA driver will be done. Yep. So I'm going to close that out and reboot. There we go. Bob R wants to know if the original drives are staying in the PC. I think so. I'll talk to DJ Big Red about that. Obviously, if we can remove any of those drives, that'll clean up the cable management. But if he wants to just leave them in there because he's got them, I understand that too. So that is something I will have to ask him about. Go to my downloads directory. Let's get that AMD chipset software installed. System's nice and quiet, I will say. Does the motherboard have another M.2 slot? Yes, it does. Davis Parsons contributes $5 and said, "This has been a good show today, Carey. Have to leave now." Well, Davis, thanks for hanging out with us, and thanks for your super chat, and congrats on being a member here for 12 months. That's awesome. I appreciate your supporting this channel. Enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, I'm going to finish just pretty much putting these drivers in. Then we'll probably wrap up today's video in about 20 minutes, I think. So we'll be at 2.5 hours today. I do like to keep the live videos around 2 hours, upwards to 3 hours. I don't usually like to go over that because it creates a bit of fatigue on both of us, quite honestly. But I do have some other work I need to get done today as well. Yes, if you like the video today, be sure and hit that thumbs up button underneath the video. And if you haven't, please subscribe and turn those notifications on so you can be made aware every time I go live. I'm always live every Friday at 1 o'clock Pacific time every week. And I'm live every Monday at 1 o'clock for my supporters. So the people that have joined and pay the $9.99 a month that are helping cover all the costs for all the equipment that I use here and all the parts that I show. I do a special video just for them so we can all interact and hang out together. So for people that want to hang out and talk with me, you just have to be a member. And then those Monday videos, the public in general are not invited, and nor will they ever see those videos. It's just for me and the members to hang out. It's a little more intimate. You know, we might get 30 or 40 total participants, and it's much calmer. You know, that's how we're able to make sure that the people that are more invested into the channel have my ear more so. And it's a way for me to show my appreciation and and to hear their feedback as well. So Mondays at 1 o'clock Pacific time, members only. Fridays, 1 o'clock Pacific time, every Friday. And then as far as Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, or Sundays, I broadcast as time permits. There are a number of variables that I deal with, such as, well, for example, yesterday, I had a phone call from one of my clients. They moved a computer, and when they moved it, it wouldn't get online anymore. So obviously, I cannot help my real business clients while I'm live and making videos, and they have to take my priority for obvious reasons. Other times, I'm waiting on parts, and I can't do the video until parts come in. And other times, there are video projects I want to do, but the funding isn't there, and I have to wait until the end of the month when I get paid by YouTube or paid by Amazon commissions so that I can then make the purchases for upcoming videos. So sometimes there's no video because I don't have the parts I need and I don't have the budget to get them. And so the members are really responsible for half of the content you see here happening because it's the funding that I get there, and in the super chats from people who super chat, or PayPal contributions or Amazon gift cards. It's all going basically to Amazon so that I can continue to be free of being told what I can say, from a sponsor telling me, we want you to show this motherboard on this date and say these things and provide the video to us for approval before you air it and make any changes we require. And if you do all of that and meet our approvals and our deadlines, we'll write you a check. I don't want to do that because then I'm just making commercials, So my thanks to the people who make this possible. Bill wants to know what the Samsung Magician does for the solid state drive. If you look in my videos and just type in YouTube CareyHolzman space Magician, I've made a whole video on that. But that Samsung Magician software is basically one of the main reasons I prefer Samsung over other drive manufacturers. DJ Big Red contributes again $4.99. He says, do whatever's needed. I trust you, Carey. If we need to remove a drive or add something, just do it. Well, I can't make that decision for you. We have to talk. We have to figure out what your requirements are going to be for how you're using the computer and whether or not the parts you have in there now are best for that, or if we shouldn't replace them with something else. So you and I will talk about that. Ron Toomey says, what's your most recent 8-year build in 2023? Stumbling on that live mixer build with the 13500, especially when that chip was on sale for $209. Pair that with some DDR5. It's a little bit more expensive because the board's going to be more and the RAM's going to be more. But you're going to end up with a system that's incredibly powerful. It's going to last a very long time. But prior to that, I think the last 8-year build I did was maybe 6 months ago, and those parts are still available. That would have been a 12600, I think. I have over 1,500 videos, so they all kind of blend together over time and over the years. Best way to answer that question is to just look on my YouTube channel. Just type in the word CareyHolzman as one word, space build, B-U-I-L-D, and then look at the dates and the videos are posted. But I got to say that 13500 has become my new favorite. Just think it's a great value. And when you will spend more for the motherboard and you will spend more for the DDR5 RAM, you could get a board that used DDR4 if you wanted to. But if you really want that to be an 8-year build, you really want to get that DDR5 RAM. Okay, that sets us up, I think, with everything. I'm going to go into, like these things here. This is not bloatware. These are just little shortcuts they add to stuff. Install this stuff here. Just right click on it and choose uninstall. They're just little tiny shortcuts. And of course, DJ Big Red can put on whatever he wants to put on to customize his computer to his preferences. Okay, check Windows Update one more time. So you'll see here, it's not allowing us to download these things, and nor is the option to check for updates available. I strongly encourage you not to try and fix this by hand because you have to reset Windows Update. You have to go through a bunch of steps. Within 24 hours, it's going to fix itself. You just need to be patient. And then the check for updates will be available again. It might even happen sooner than that. So why do work you don't have to do if all you have to do is be patient? It's not holding us back from anything. Let's try Crystal Dismark, and let's see we're getting the right performance numbers on that Samsung drive. We should see about 3,500, 3,600 on the sequential reads, and I think about 3,000 on the sequential writes. So let's give that a shot here and see how it performs. Now, given that, I think that's all I'm going to do on camera. Everything else, like I say, I'll look for a fan. I will flip around the rear fan to the other direction, and I'll start working on the cable management. Yeah, 3573, that number looks good. I got to talk to DJ Big Red about what we want to do with the existing solid state drive and mechanical drive and figure out how he's using the computer, what would be the best solution for him for storage. He might be better off with like a big mechanical drive. If he's going to use this for gamings, those games can be very big, and going with a solid state drive is likely not going to give him enough capacity if that's going to be this computer's main purpose. So we'll talk about that. And then the little Wi-Fi cable, or the card, the Wi-Fi card has a cable coming out going into USB. I'm going to clean that up as well. And then wipe the dust out of it. Yeah. And then once I have the fan situation sorted, it'll be good to go and should last him many, many years trouble-free. The RAM, even though it doesn't match, it's not hurting anything. It's mostly an aesthetic issue. The important thing is that, I mean, in all likelihood, having 48 gigs of RAM isn't helping him. If we were to take the two non-RGB sticks out, I'm going to guess those are probably 8s and that the big RGB ones are 16s. For most people with 32 gigs of RAM, you're not even using 32 gigs. So anything you have above and beyond that is more you're not using. I don't know for certain how he's using this machine, but if he's using it for gaming, he likely won't see any benefit from that added RAM. But if he's loading a bunch of sound profiles in it for like, what's it called, Ableton, or can't remember the name of it, then it could benefit from having more RAM for that purpose. So that's why we need to talk. Jason says, Carey, for storage, why do you show throughput? Why don't you show response time? If this is a desktop user, they mainly open up programs, so that relies on response times. Well, most users have a very slow response time. So if you really want to get technical, why don't we measure the response time of the user? I'm only interested as a system builder in what the peak performance is. I want to make sure that we're hitting the numbers we should be hitting. With regards to response times, that's inherent to the drive. We're not changing the drive out for that, and it results in milliseconds. And anybody who's obsessed with milliseconds should do the work themselves. They shouldn't ask anybody to work for them because they're being very, very difficult people to work for. I'm not interested in working for people who care about such things. I just want to make sure that the equipment I'm installing under peak conditions or under the mass stress situations like Prime 95, as long as it operates properly under these peak and high stress scenarios, that I'm comfortable handing it off to the customer for the sake of reliability and for the sake of performance, knowing that the statistical likelihood of that customer coming back with a problem relating to heat or stressing out the computer pretty much goes to zero. For somebody chasing benchmarks, they can do that on their own time. I don't have any interest in that. Find Me in Hawaii contributes $9.99 in Super Chat. Thank you, Ken. Thank you again. So again, when people talk on behalf of other people that they don't know, it's really rude. You don't know how they're using the computer. You can't make the assumption that they're using it the way you think they're using it. I think you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're bringing up something that doesn't need to be brought up because it's not an issue other than what you've created in your own head. So if a customer were to come up to me and say, I thought my computer was responding a little slowly, then of course I'm going to address it. But in this case, given the solid state drive that he had and the mechanical drive that he had, I can guarantee you his response time is going to be faster than it's ever been in his entire ownership of this computer. And he wasn't complaining about it before. And all we did was make it better. So it's a non-issue. So let's take a look here. Here's our final numbers. That looks good. And yeah, let's see. And once again, what somebody prioritizes for their computer isn't good for everybody. You know, you do what you want to do with yours. And coming into my own channel, especially if I've made you a moderator and then challenging me, is, you know, something I expect from somebody new here. I don't expect somebody to tell me how to do my job. I've been doing this job over 30 years, so I don't need people like that disrupting the chat room. They're acting like a social justice warrior over things that only matter to them and therefore must matter to everybody. It's not how you run a business, not a successful one. You've got to listen to each unique customer and listen to what their needs are, and then provide them with the solution customized for each. You don't just throw a blanket and say, everybody sits under this blanket universally. You can if you want to, but you likely won't succeed very long in business. So I don't know why people do that, but it's going to be a short road if you can't have any impulse control and you think you know better than me. The best way to do that is to create your own video and show me. So yeah, and that's discouraging. You know, I come out here and make the videos for free, sharing my experience. I'm not asking for somebody to challenge me. It's not what this is for. It's not why I make the videos. If you want to email me privately and have a discussion so that you can better understand what you don't understand, I'd be happy to have that. Making the implication to say that I'm wrong is not correct. It's that you aren't getting what I'm conveying. That's where the disconnect is. And so when somebody immediately takes that attitude, that sort of aggressive, I'm smarter than you, I'm going to challenge you, I don't want to see that here. But do start your own YouTube channel and do make the videos and do show us all how it's done, because then you'll get viewers that do that to you and we'll see how you like it. Isn't this fun? Voodoo Valley with $2 says, blame Derek. And Bill Sony contributes $2. He says, Carey, great show. Thank you. Have a Coke on me. Right on. Thank you, guys. What are we doing right now? I don't have my OBS screen up, so I can't see what it's doing. Oh, we were at the finishing the benchmarks here, which is good. So yeah, I think those right numbers are a little lower than I would normally expect, but this is a 1 terabyte drive, so it's not going to perform quite as fast as the 2 terabyte drives I'm accustomed to using on the Samsung 970. So that would explain likely why this number is a bit lower than I was expecting it to be, but it's probably on par with where it should be. And then out of curiosity, if we bring up HW info, let's see if in fact this fan is not enough for this CPU. There's only one way to know for sure, and that's going to be to try it. So we're going to here, bring up our sensors. Let's close that. We'll bring up Prime 95 and we'll run it with all 24 threads. There we go. Close that window and we'll bring up the temperature and I'll start my timer. So, no, stopwatch. And we'll let that go until it exceeds 85 degrees Celsius or we hit 20 minutes. So we're going to go a little bit longer just so we can do this one last piece. You just scroll down here. There's our temps. 58.6 is fine. Well, we're climbing up. We've gone to 60. Let's see. I think that's where I want it, right there. Okay. Michael Mariello says, just keep doing what you're doing. Well, I appreciate it, but I'm going to do that anyway. I want to see if I've missed anything else here. John Struthers became a supporter. Right on. Thank you for becoming a member of our tech club, John. Welcome. I think I got everybody else. Temps are still looking good. Of course, we're only 2 minutes in. We got a ways to go yet. Ryan says those write speeds are normal for the 970 Evo. It's the Evo Plus that gets, okay, that's right. The 2 terabyte 970 Evo Plus is the one I normally use. Good catch. Thank you for that. Luke says, don't mind me. I'm just sitting here melting in the heat. Is it hot in Vermont? When is it that it's cooler in Phoenix? When has that ever happened? I'm not complaining. I'm surprised that we're still this cool, this late into the, or this early, I should say, into this. We're approaching summer. We're at the end of spring here. A couple more weeks left. And normally we're at over 100 degrees Fahrenheit by now. So I suspect that our summer is starting late and will last longer. I think I've got a very hot fall waiting for me this year. The first of never. Sergio says it's 80 degrees in Chicago right now. That's not too bad at all. Tim Teal says, I also signed up with Instant House Call and I let Corey know I heard about it from you. Well, thanks, Tim. I hope that you find it as useful as I do. I just had to use Instant House Call yesterday when my customer called me. And yeah, saves me getting in the car and driving for 30 minutes in each direction to do something I just needed to point the mouse at and fix a couple of registry errors. Does Carey support Windows 11 for his customers? I support what my customers pay me to support. So if they're running Windows 11 or they're running Windows 10, it doesn't matter to me. It's up to the customer. I don't make that decision for my customers. Now, if they're running Linux or Mac, then I can't help them because I'm not experienced and I don't have any interest. But first and foremost, I support what my customers want me to support. Just so we're clear, I have a business to run, and my business isn't it's not telling my customers what they're allowed to run or not allowed to run. So now, whether or not they would have a benefit in running Windows 11, I don't know. But more and more, you don't get any choice if you're buying a new, let's say, a new laptop. You're going to get Windows 11 on it, whether you like it or not, more than likely. So, you know, that's no way to run a business, is to say, I won't help you with your new computer. It's a computer repair business. But the vast majority of my clients, my business clients, still run Windows 10. And if those clients decided they wanted to go to Windows 11 and they want to pay me for that, I'm more than happy to do it. Remember, customer is the boss. Dustin Fuller says, Carey, it's 86 degrees here in Algonac, Michigan. Wish I was there. Algonac. Temps are still looking good, 63.1. And we're 6 minutes in. 14 minutes to go. Temps look fantastic. It's over here. And I hear a box being dropped off at my front door. Ooh, I wonder if this is some eBay goodies. I'm going to go check that. I'll let that run. I'm going to just step off screen here for a minute. Oh, this is something from B&H that arrived, and I don't remember ordering anything from B&H that I haven't already received. So I think I'm about to have my memory jarred here in a minute. What is in here? Oh, I remember. Forgot I ordered this. This is an Intel A770 GPU because I want to see how that works for video rendering with the AV1 support. Yeah, Amazon had this for like $450. It should be a $350 card. And I wanted an Intel one. And so, yeah, that's just what arrived here, the Intel A770. I've heard these are getting better and better as Intel's improving the drivers. For my purposes, for video rendering, I'm hopeful that this is going to be as good as what I'm reading about. So yeah, it's like $350. B&H had them. So ordered it from B&H, and there we've got more parts for more content. Totally forgot about this. It wasn't even last week I ordered it. It's just a few days ago. Too many things going on in my life, man. All right, I'll just set it there for now, and we'll put that away a little bit later. Let's see, how are we doing here? We are, about 10 minutes into the test. And yeah, I need to make sure that that my video editing software even offers me AV1 encoding. I don't know that it does. I've never looked for it before. But I have a subscription to CyberLink Power Director, so I always get the latest version. I'm assuming it's in there, but if it's not, it probably won't help me much unless I change editing software. So that's more that I'll find out later. Another project to put on the shelf and revisit that when I have time. Paul says the temps I normally watch are further up near the top. Am I looking at the wrong thing? Should be right at the top here. What's at the very top? So the reason I put the temps up here and extended this is so we can look at what's the frequency is on the CPU. That's L3 cache. Yeah, I wasn't looking at these temps down here. I was looking at these temps, the first temp up here. I was trying to get the CPU frequency in here, but yeah, should be it right here, right? So we're at 65. We're still running it almost seems too cool. Something seems wrong. Or power clocks. Or temperatures. Now we can see these individual core temps. Are all 12 cores being used? Yes, they are. We're slamming 100% on 12 cores and the additional 12 threads on Prime 95. It's at 100% on all 24 threads. Prime 95 is running minimized down here. Two, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Seven, 10. So it's 20 threads? I thought it was 24. Let's do this. Let's hit Control-Alt-Delete. Task Manager. To Performance. Source Monitor. CPU. So there's CPU 0, 1, 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Yeah, so it starts at 0 to 23. That's a total of 24. They're all at 100% slammed. And with that in mind, it makes those temperatures seem all the more impressive. Absolutely doesn't feel right to me. It seems like that should be about 10 degrees hotter at a minimum. I'm not complaining, but it's performing way better than I was expecting. We're about 15 minutes in with 5 minutes to go. And it's looking very promising in that regard. Who said that cooler wasn't going to be enough? Now, it may be possible that we're being gentle in the BIOS with regards to the voltage we're sending to the CPU. But it's pretty quick to me. Don't mind me, I'm just opening up another package here. I think this is parts that I need to do a repair on a network switch. This should be, I think, replacement cooling fans. Yep, that's exactly what it is. And so I'm going to do a video where I open up one of these really old Netgear switches that was at one of my clients, and it's got fans that are really noisy. But otherwise, the switch is in great shape despite being like 20 years old. Fans should be super easy to replace, and they're supposed to be better fans than what the network switch came with. It's like a 24-port gigabit Netgear auto-negotiating unmanaged switch, and it's probably 20 years old. And the fans sound terrible in it. And I thought, you know, for what the fans cost to replace, it might make an interesting video. And I don't have any use for a switch that big, except that if a client were to call with a networking problem and it turns out their switch has gone bad, or quite often the power supplies go bad, takes the switch down, I can at least put something in immediately to get them back up and running while we order a replacement, or send back their switch if it's under warranty and just let them borrow it indefinitely until we get a replacement. So I like to have stuff like that around for my clients to be able to utilize at a moment's notice. And I thought, I'll change the fans out, you know. Fred Sunderman said it was only 89 degrees Fahrenheit in North Haven, Connecticut today. All right, where are we at now? 17 and a half minutes. Oh, we did peak a little bit here, didn't we? We had a 91.7. We're doing that right now. We're into the 90s. So there it is. It's finally working it. And trying to remember what the throttle point on this chip is. Is it 95 on the AMD? I'm going to let it continue only because we're 2 minutes away from a 20-minute test. And if this was a system that I was building, I would likely recommend a better cooler for it. So yeah, it looks like this cooler it's getting the job done, maybe. It's right on the edge. It's like barely covering it. So whatever that test was that Prime 95 was doing was different from all the other testing, and it's caused it to heat up momentarily, and then it's come back down now. So nothing that caused a system crash or any instability. So it seems like it's doing its job. All right, and just about 45 seconds left. Yeah, I think that likely the customer would never push the system this hard to begin with. But when I sell a system, I like to make sure that if the customer were to do that, they would not have any problems. I don't know that they wouldn't have some problems with this particular cooler in, but I think for DJ Big Red, I don't think he would push it that hard anyway, and certainly not for 20 minutes if he were to do that. For the most part, this is a gaming machine, and so a lot of the stress is going to come off of the GPU. But then again, it depends on the game too. Some games will slam that CPU at 100%. But given that he didn't have any complaints with overheating problems, we haven't changed anything in that regard, I don't think it's a problem that needs to get fixed. But I'll talk with DJ Big Red about it just to see. He's got room for a liquid cooler if we wanted to put one on. And yeah, we're over 20 minutes now. We're almost at 21 minutes. And currently we're climbing back up. We're at 91. Yeah. So if it's throttled, I wasn't noticing if it throttled or not. But the important thing is that it doesn't crash on us. That's the main concern. Now, I never wanted to throttle, obviously. But given that he's had this machine for a couple of years and he hasn't had any heat-related problems, I don't know if spending money to solve a problem he doesn't have and never is going to have is advisable. But I will allow him to make that decision. Makes no difference to me if I put a liquid cooler in it because that's about the only other thing we could do. The RAM is too tall for pretty much any other air cooler. It's going to get in the way. So yeah, let me go ahead and stop Prime 95. I think we're good here. Test and stop. And we should see those temps drop really quickly here now that we've stopped the test. Yeah, it's dropping. All right. Viable Solutions is Carey with the case panel off. Is it not affecting the test? If you have good airflow in your case, then taking the side panels off should make it run hotter. If you have proper airflow in the case, when putting the side panels on, it should run cooler. However, it's not an issue that he's ever had, right? So when he's using the computer, he's always using it with the side panels on. He's not running it with the side panels off. And most people don't push their computer that hard. And if they do, it's usually for just a few seconds at a time where the chip turbos up to get something done. We do tend to live in a world where people have a lot of anxiety and fear over the potential for a problem. And so I have to gauge for my business where there's a real potential for a support call or something that could cost me money, whether it's my time having to fix something or my reputation where somebody loses their confidence in my ability to do my job. And that can cost me my business if I allow that to fester. So I have to understand essentially what's the customer's frame of mind, how are they using the machine. Given that this machine is a few years old and it's never been brought to me before, it's been running good enough for this customer for everything they use it for until it didn't boot. So a lot of you are going after little nitpicky things that have no impact on the customer. I go after nitpicky things like the screws not being right, but that's something that doesn't cost me any money to fix. I got spare screws and I'm going to swap them out because it makes my OCD happy. But I'm not going to recommend somebody necessarily spend $200 or whatever on a liquid cooler to solve a problem that they've never had and never will have if what they've got is meeting their needs. Now, whether or not it meets your needs, well, I can't answer that. But given that we had to go about 18 minutes on Prime 95 before we exceeded that temperature, the 85, and given the history with this customer and his history with the machine, I feel it would be the right thing to do to let them know, hey, if you were to push this that hard for this length of time, this cooler should probably be replaced. But what I suspect the customer's going to say is, I've never had a problem with it before. Why would I have a problem with it now? Fair enough. Leave it be. Don't fix it if it ain't broke. Sometimes people get caught up chasing benchmarks, and they'll open their wallet and spend money to solve imaginary problems. So again, not a good way to stay in business if customers feel like you're ripping them off, taking advantage of them by selling them something they don't need. You could say, well, technically you do need it. And they could say, well, this other tech said I don't need it. And the other tech isn't selling me anything and you are, so you're the bad guy because I'm listening to the other tech and I'm not having any problems. So take your scam elsewhere. You have to understand providing the right solutions to each individual customer. Now, if this thing jumped up to like 85 immediately within the first couple of minutes of Prime 95, I would be very, very concerned. But given that it took, what, about 18 minutes, and that even at that, it still didn't overheat. It never caused a blue screen or a crash. I don't think the customer would ever use it in that way. Very few customers really use their computers to that level other than running benchmarks. That's pretty much 98% of the people online that are complaining about it. They're just running benchmarks. They're actually having a problem. And if people want to pay me to fix stuff like that, I'm happy to do it. If you want to pay for a liquid cooler, I'll put it in. Doesn't bother me. But does that specific customer and their specific use case of how they use the computer, will it benefit them? I don't think it will. But that's really for the customer to decide. And so I will do my best for full disclosure to the customer to let them know, these are your options. I don't think it's going to make any difference. But if you want to do it, we've got room in the case. Not a big deal for me to plug it in. And if you want to leave it the way it is, see, a lot of customers, they don't want to spend money they don't have to spend. So a lot of enthusiasts, they'll go out and buy extraordinary coolers and extraordinary hardware that's expensive because they think it's cool. Most people with computers, though, don't want to spend money they don't have to spend. You know, it's going to come across like you're trying to scam. So that's the fine line I walk as a technician in the real world and being held accountable. People have to understand you need to be able to justify to your customer why they should spend that money. I can't justify it to this customer. I would tell him I wouldn't do it. If it was me, I wouldn't do it. I'd leave it just the way it is. So, and if, he could always change his mind too, or his use could change. Maybe he's using the computer in a way for something much more resource intensive in the future. And now suddenly the fan's getting really loud. That would probably be more of a reason to change it. They'd say, hey, can we do something about the noise? So we'd probably address the noise issue rather than the heat issue. And in the real world, that's usually what the support calls entail. Very, very rarely would anybody call you because the computer's hot. That only happens on the internet, for the most part. There's always exceptions. But in the real world, that call just doesn't come in very. Ron wants to know if different types of RAM can have an effect on the CPU cooling. Well, you know, if you're putting in more RAM, you're going to be drawing more voltage. And it's right next to the CPU. So 4 sticks of RAM are going to draw in twice as much power than 2 sticks of RAM. When the RAM has RGB, it's going to draw more power. It's pulling the power through that one little socket, you know. And could that affect the RAM? Could it affect the cooling? Well, the RAM in this system is kind of blocking the fins a little bit to the cooler, right? So a liquid cooler wouldn't have that problem. But a big Noctua DH15 wouldn't fit over that RAM. The RAM would have to be removed and replaced. Suddenly, you're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a new cooler and new RAM so you can get the cooler to fit, or going to a liquid cooler to solve a problem that isn't a problem because you're obsessed with looking at numbers on benchmarks. And if that's what you want to do, I mean, it's your money and it's your time. But if you want to run a business that way, you likely will not stay in business trying to convince your customers of whatever that logic is you're using. I strongly recommend people only fix problems they're having. And we do things proactively that are financially and labor-wise not too much of an investment, because otherwise you could spend more time and more money trying to prevent a problem than just fixing it if that scenario ever actually emerged in real life. But to each his own. There's not really a right or wrong way for any individual to perceive that. But it can be perceived that you can be looking at something and somebody else can be looking at the same thing and yet see two entirely different things. And at the end of the day, whatever it is to make you happy, if it's spending your money for parts you don't need because you feel you need them, I wouldn't argue with you. I'd say, well, go buy those parts. But I wouldn't twist your arm or try to convince you to buy those parts unless it was actually going to have a difference that meant something to you as a user, that your computer will now perform quieter or faster or more reliably. And since none of that's an issue, like I said, I'll tell the customer, say, hey, look, that fan is just barely good enough if you're pushing that CPU hard. Have you ever had any issues with the noise it's making in the past? And I imagine they're going to say, no, it's never been a problem. And I'll say, well, if you were to push it hard for a long period of time, it could be a problem. And if you want, well, I've got the machine apart, this would be a good time to have me do the work. If you want to spend the money, be without the machine for a couple more days, we can order a cooler and put it in there. Or if you'd rather have the machine back faster and cheaper, leave it the way it is. And then the customer generally wants faster and cheaper. But occasionally, the customer could surprise me and say, hey, you know what? Let's put a liquid cooler in there. I've been wanting to do that anyway. Or sometimes the customer will say, I've got a liquid cooler in a box I never put in. That's happened. But it's not the typical answer you get in the real world from real people. So there is a big discrepancy between the conversations that happen online and the conversations that happen from real customers paying money to a tech, right? There's things you will do at home that no customer would ever pay me to do. In fact, you probably wouldn't pay me to do it. It's something you're doing because you find entertainment in it. You find some value in it, but that's uniquely you. It doesn't universally apply. And that's the appeal of computers for me, is that they are to be customized for each unique individual, not for any one person to say this is the right way for everybody. That's the world of Macintosh. That's Apple. If you want to live in that world, it exists, and it's called Apple. Okay, I think that's going to wrap it up for me for today. Let me go full screen back on camera one. So what do I have to do? I got to flip the fan around. I got to look for a front fan. I've got to rehook up the solid state drive and the hard drive one at a time. Got to put some PCIe port blockers in there. Clean up the cable management. Probably take it outside, dust it out. Talk to the customer a little bit about that situation. And it's an easy repair. It was nothing. And yeah, maybe the next repair I'll have will be more challenging than this one. This one's pretty straightforward. And thankfully, in this business, most repairs are relatively simple. But it's those frustrating ones, those are the good ones. And we get those peppered in amongst the common repairs. So this would fall under a common repair. Nothing really unique about this particular issue. I've certainly had machines come in where BIOSes have changed from like AHCI mode into SATA mode, and then their system doesn't boot. And I've had machines come in where BIOSes have become corrupted. I had one machine come in once in all these years where the BIOS corrupted and nobody understands how. The customer leaves the computer on 24/7. They never shut it off. And one day it wouldn't boot anymore. I went over, I picked it up, I put it on the bench, I turned it on, and it fired up and it said recovering from backup BIOS. This was a gigabyte board that had to dual BIOS. I've never seen it do this before. So I left it alone. It apparently restored the BIOS from the backup BIOS, and it booted up and it worked fine. I didn't need to do really any work to it. Put the panels back on, put it back in the car, took it back to the customer. That's the last I've heard of that customer. That was what, 4 or 5 years ago, I think. So I've always heard about how these backup BIOSes are helpful if your BIOS ever becomes corrupted. But in all my years of doing this, I've only seen that happen once. It's very weird. And nobody understands what happened, right? He has no idea. I don't have any idea, but it's fixed. Now, why it didn't offer to do that for him, I don't know. Maybe it just missed me and it wanted to have a little time on my bench. But nonetheless, the easy repairs are great because they make me feel smart. The tough repairs, they're great too because they frustrate me and keep me interested. You know, if you get it too easy all the time, it's just boring and you don't want to do it because it's not a challenge. So I like that you have this balance of frustrating problems and basic problems. But there you go. My thanks to DJ Big Red for letting us show his repair live on camera. A lot of customers don't like that these days. And yeah, everything else is pretty simple stuff. And thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I'll shout out a thank you again to everybody who's contributed during today's broadcast. We had a number of contributors today, and I want to say thank you again to each of them. And that is, starting from the top, Alan Lindas, Mark Gaines, Ben Laird, Planet Cryos, Chris the PC Doctor, Peter Laycock, Colin Hunt, Rystar Man, Nick Caffrey, Bob R, Find Me in Hawaii, Sue Cool 98 Lawrence, DJ Big Red, Mike Quinton, Bebo, Samuel Kowalski, Craig Casabona, Ryan Rain One Full, Paul M, Frank Jimmy, Mike Visions, John Inglis, Jerome, Guy Strnitsky, Davis Parsons, Voodoo Valley, Bill Sony T, and a welcome to our latest members of the Tech Club that includes John Struthers, Juho Kojima, Paul O'Brien, and Bloviator Maximus. Thanks, guys, for joining the Tech Club, and be sure you tune in on those Monday only videos, and you can always go back and see the Monday only videos that you've missed. When you become a supporter, those videos are they're in the video library. Only supporters can see those. They're mostly just hangouts and they're letting you know what's coming up for the week, but every once in a while I'll do a little video for them. And if you have suggestions or ideas for me as a supporter of something you'd like to see, please reach out to my email and let me know. All the supporters are always, I do whatever I can to return the favor back to my supporters with addressing any questions or concerns that you have personally. And that'll wrap it up for me for today. Thanks to all my friends in Blue and all the new members that have joined us today. And thanks for being so awesome. This community is so amazing. Camera Girl has a sick cat, so she's dealing with that, and hopefully things will be okay with that, but we'll see. I don't know how long she'll be away, but that's obviously taking a priority, as it should. And so tomorrow I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do the camera work and the build work at the same time, but we'll figure it out. Thank you again for hanging out. I will see you all again very, very soon. Until next time, bye for now. Trying to find an outro video to play. This one seems appropriate. Bye for now.